bringing you the latest news from Estacado Athletics. This is the Matador Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the High School Fan Zone on a Monday night, first Monday of December, and the first week of a revamped schedule on the High School Fan Zone. If you missed it earlier, we're going to switch to just Monday and Wednesday nights. Football we keep open for Tuesday for basketball, as it should be, says the Kansas guy who loves high school basketball. That means we're going to shift some of the leading characters around. So Monday night will be the four LISD schools. It will be Coronado, Estacado, Lubbock High, and Monterey in that order every Monday. We'll jump into basketball coaches next week for a little bit. We'll get some wrestling coaches in here. We'll get some soccer coaches in here. I'm working on getting the director of LISD swimming in here as well. But basketball will kind of take center stage here next week. The only reason we're not jumping into basketball as much tonight is because all the coaches in town are at the Caprock Classic seeding meeting, and I did not want to disrupt that at all. They need to make sure they get all that stuff straight. Of course, the Caprock Classic is this year. It's a little earlier. It's December 26th, 27th, and 28th, all over town, all four LISD schools, both Lubbock Cooper schools, Friendship. I need to check on this with my friend Brian from Played Against Sports to see if LCU is hosting the championship games. That's always a great venue for the championship night of the Caprock Classic. But those coaches were tied up tonight, so I kind of shuffled the deck a little bit. You saw that I had a baseball coach in December, but that as you might have heard me say to him, I was glad because I wanted to talk to him because Coronado got a little bit earlier start on the baseball season than normal with their football season ending before the playoff or without playoffs. We are going to wrap up a couple of football seasons here. Eric Ward is on his way to talk about the Matadors, who finished 7-5, lost in the area round for the second time in 3 years. Last year they went on to the regional round. We're going to have Judd Thrash on to talk about Monterey's season, which ended in the area round, and then we're going to have Lubbock High cross country coach Michael Sparks in to talk about one of his runners, Arturo Rodriguez, advanced to the state meet, which I thought was a pretty cool deal because he was a kid who competed all season long, was always hovering near the top and broke through, got to state. I want Michael to talk a little bit about that and also about former Westerner Isaac Alonzo, who has really done well running at the University of Texas, really made a name for himself and is putting his Lubbock stamp on the national cross-country scene. So those four schools are on Monday nights. That will be the regular rotation. Then Wednesday nights, no Tuesday night again. We skip Tuesday nights for high school basketball. Wednesday nights will be Friendship, Lubbock Cooper, and Liberty in that order. It'll be a little bit easier to get basketball coaches on this week because they won't have the seeding meeting. We will have scheduled to have Paul Page from Friendship, although that may be by phone because that is a busy gentleman this week with the Gene Messer Classic going on out at Friendship this week. And then we will have Jaden Isler, the Lubbock Cooper girls coach, whose team I think is going to surprise some people as we go along here. They've lost a lot of talent the last couple of years from a team that was a few plays away from winning a state championship in 2023. But I have a feeling in Jaden's second year they're going to jump up and bite some people here before too long in a very tough district. And then we'll wrap up this Wednesday with Liberty boys coach Parker Hicks, whose team is 2-0, off to a very impressive start. I actually saw them play against Childress, and they ran the Bobcats out of the gym. And the Bobcats have a lot of history, a lot of tradition. They were no match for the Liberty Patriots that day. They were supposed to play Lubbock Christian Tuesday, but Lubbock Christian's football season just ended, so that game, I'm not sure if it got canceled or postponed. That's a great competitive game if they do play that. And then Liberty heads up to the Nazareth tournament, which is my late father-in-law and a couple other people have told me that if you go to the Nazareth tournament, the big thing is to make sure you hit the concession stand for a couple of the items they have up there in Nazareth, which, especially my old self, I would not turn down a trip to the concession stand. I may not be as eager as I used to be, but I'll take my late father-in-law's word for it. I've heard a lot of folks from up there may have to check with Parker's wife is a Nazareth girl, so I may have to see what he says if he goes up there and finds out that that's true. I may have to run up to Nazareth and test that out. There is a lot of basketball going on besides the Gene Messer Classic and besides the Nazareth tournament. There's a couple of tournaments closer by besides Friendship. There's a tournament down in New Home, which is where the Lubbock Christian boys and girls will be. There's a tournament out in Anton where the Kingdom Prep boys and girls and the Christ the King boys and girls will be. The other teams have all scattered around the state a little bit, but there's some basketball going on in and around Lubbock. The Gene Messer Classic is a really fun event. Monterey and Friendship boys will be there. There's a lot of good teams out at that event. Canyon boys will be there. Rockwell Heath has been a regular participant. They're going to be there, so there's a lot of good basketball. That's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday out at the Tiger Pit. We will come back for one more segment of the High School Fan Zone second segment after this break on 100.7 The Score.
Keeping you up to date on the Estacado Matadors. This is the Matador Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Matador Fan Zone. Now we're switching gears. We have Eric Ward, and I'm going to try to say your name right, Vershaunndrick.
Yes,
Did I get it close?
Yes, sir.
Vershaunndrick Smith, Big V, as they know him at Estacado. I told Coach Ward we've talked about him. We've heard about him. We've bragged about how good this young man is. You've worked with him for 6 months now, something like that. Mm-hmm. How good is this young man? How old are you, Vershaunndrick?
16.
Just turned 16?
Yes, sir.
How good has this young man been since you've gotten to know him?
He's been lights out. His personality speaks volume, but his performance on the field speaks even more. And so, I mean, he's a sophomore, but just to say a lot about his character, he's one of our leaders on the team. So I think a lot about him. The kids that old or younger they look up to him. He's just a likable kid. And so with that, he has a lot going for himself because he has the personality to move a room.
Vershaunndrick, I may get Coach emotional over here. You got to play with a couple of Estacado recent legends, I think. Bobby Ross, I think it's fair to say he's going to be remembered for a long time. Donovan Torres. Some of those guys you got to play with, how have they kind of helped you set your foundation now moving forward these next few years?
Right there. Let me see.
What kind of influence have they had on you?
A lot. Since I was in 8th grade, I used to always come up here all the time, and Bobby just showed me how to be a leader. And Donovan too, said, Devin, everybody just showed me how to just be a leader. It's your turn now to be a leader. That's what they tell me.
Now Cedric and James Bozeman are back. There are a couple of guys coming back, but Coach mentioned you have to take the torch and be one of the leaders now. How excited are you to kind of take that role on more?
Can't wait. Going into my junior year, can't wait.
What's the offseason going to be like for you? I'm going to ask you, then I'm going to ask Coach what he's going to have you do this offseason.
Well, first I'm going to go play basketball, get in more shape, more condition, and then I'm still going to hit the weight room, do that, stuff like that.
He's going to go play for that Coach Wagner guy who will get the most out of him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you want to see Vershaunndrick do in this offseason?
I want them to be kids first and enjoy being a kid because you only get to be in high school once. Yep. But also with the idea that we're going to get stronger over the course of the offseason. And so I know Coach Wag's going to do a great job of teaming up with me and sticking to the script and getting the kids stronger because he always have. And like I said, I look up to Coach Wag in terms of he coached me when I was younger. Yep. And so his dad also coached me. And so I know we have the same goals in mind, and we're going to get the kids stronger and we're going to get better.
Well, and you guys got better this year. You finished 7-5, rattled off 6 wins in a row, undefeated district champs. And we talked all season long about it. It took a while for the mold to kind of take place. Mm-hmm. It's still fresh, but when you look back now a couple weeks later, what are you proud of this group for accomplishing?
The resiliency. They've answered every challenge I laid out in front of them. They stayed the course, and they believed in it, and they trusted the process. And so I'm proud of each and every one of them in the way they stuck together and they fought for each other.
And now you and your coaches kind of have your feet on the ground. You can kind of exhale very briefly and kind of start using this season as a building block. What do you want to see this program do now starting this week? Now you get them back from Thanksgiving, you can kind of start moving towards the future.
Like I said, just build on the foundation. we're in the process of building a house, is what I call it. And so you can't build a house without the foundation. And so we're laying the foundation, but, brick by brick. We want to get better each day in every way. And so we're going to continue to have that as a model and continue to strive to get better and stronger.
Vershaunndrick, why did you guys get better? Because at one point you were 1-4, I think, and it looked a little bleak. But then all of a sudden you guys started playing. What made you guys get better?
We just really wanted it. We wanted to make the playoff because we knew if we keep losing, we're not going to make it. And that's not Estacado football to us. So after we ran that airport, we just changed. We had more coachable. We had, guys step up, more people talking, stuff like that.
And you know a little bit about Estacado football. I asked you in between breaks here, your dad played at Estacado.
Yes, sir.
He played for Lewis Kelly Sr. Lewis Kelly the first. I don't know how you say it because there's three of them. Mm-hmm. What kind of stories does he have about Coach Kelly?
He always tell me that he was a great coach, one of his favorite coach. He always pushed them and stuff like that. Yeah, he just always pushed the team. Ain't no quitting around here. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. When you walk into that field house, what's the first thing you see on the wall over there?
Yeah.
And what's that quote say?
Just win.
Just win.
Just win.
Not a whole lot of bells and whistles, and I can hear him in his voice. One of my favorite things about Lewis is his last couple of years is where you guys practice. He'd stand off in the corner with his arms crossed. It wouldn't have to say much, but if something happened, somebody got out of line, they'd all turn at once and look at Lewis, and he'd just shake his head. And that fixed it. That's just you've played for coaches and coached with coaches who kind of have that aura, Eric. Mm-hmm. When you take over a place like Estacado, how motivating is it to work to be that kind of coach?
It's very motivating. That's prolific in my opinion. I love the foundation that Coach Kelly laid, the tradition and the culture that he built, and the legacy that he left behind. And as a coach myself, I want to do the same thing.
Year one as a head coach, you got them off to a good start. You got through the tough times, and like I said, 6 in a row. I talked to Jay Northcutt at Friendship. They won 10 in a row. That's tough to do, but just winning one football game on any level is hard to do. It takes a lot of effort, and you were a guy who played college football, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. How much did your guys learn that as they went along the season? You can't just show up and play, but you got to be prepared and got to play for those 48 minutes.
Absolutely. I tell them all the time, I don't preach results. I preach the process. I'm on them every day in practice, and I want the most of them out of practice. And if it's not what I want, and you can ask V himself, he'll tell you, I'll start practice over until we get it the way I want it. We have to practice at a high level because that's the way we're going to play.
I saw that in person myself. So
it takes me getting after them sometime, but they know it's all love, and I always love on them afterwards.
This last thing, you don't even have to answer it. I thought it was really cool that last time Bobby Ross touched the ball as a high school kid, he ran 75 yards. I'm right about that?
Yes, sir.
That's quite a finish. And I know the game didn't go the way you guys wanted to, but that's a nice little bow to put on top of a season is when you put a legendary young man and let him go out like that. So that's going to wrap us up on this Matador Fan Zone on Monday night. We'll be back after the break with Lubbock High cross-country coach Michael Sparks on the Westerner Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.